Hello, hello. Part 2 of my story. Where we left off is I had told you my past. I had told you from the time I got saved through my childhood. I had brought you all the way up to where we had gotten married and where we had left the church that we were in when we got married, and we're now into another church that we went to up until 2 years ago. And I'm not going to be dropping names. I am not going to say names, location, because I don't feel like that's right. I do want to give circumstances, and only the people involved are going to know who I'm talking about. But I definitely want to share this because this is the crux of my story. This is where everything happens. So stay tuned, buckle up, and here we go. Okay, so part 2. So in my last video, I left off with we had gotten into this church and we loved it, shouting, singing, country style, We felt so welcomed and so loved, and we felt like this was it. This is where we're going to be. This is where we're going to be for the rest of our lives. This is the church. And, there were things that, I'm at home. I was a young mom still, although I like to still consider myself young at 33. But we were a young couple. We had very small children. At this stage, we had 3 under 2 years old, almost 3. Yeah, it was 3 years. We had 3 under 3, and I was pregnant with our 4th, and I was seeing myself struggle. I was having a hard time, I'm not gonna lie. I was having a hard time keeping up with toddlers and keeping up with all this stuff that I was having preached to me. I was being told that when your man walks through the door, you need to have your makeup done. Your hair needs to be done. You need to be dressed. You need to dress nice. Greet him with a big fat kiss when he walks through the door. Have his plate set on the table, hot and steaming when he walks through the door. So all he has to do is come and sit down, eat. And then when he's done, he's to go sit in the recliner, kick his boots off, and not do anything. And so here I was trying to keep a house clean. I was trying to keep up with 3 toddlers. I was pregnant. I was trying to keep the house picked up, make sure my hair was done, that my makeup was done, that I was dressed, that I was presentable for my husband. I was trying my best to be that wife that was being preached about. And, social media being what it is, when I'd post pictures, you'd see the mess. You'd see things happen. You'd see everything. And so I was friends with my pastor. I don't know if he ever saw these. I can't say for certain that he ever did or that I was who he was talking about. I cannot validate any of that. I cannot give anything on that front. This is what was playing through my mind. So as my 4th was born, I still struggled. I still had a hard time. It was still being preached on what the wife should do, how the husband wasn't supposed to come home and hear about the kids all day, and how they did this and how they did that. He's supposed to come home to a happy home, and he's supposed to come home to a joyful wife and a happy house and a clean house and a cooked dinner and all this stuff. And so then bring in the 5th pregnancy. And we had 5 kids in 4.5 years. Once Caleb was born, I was trying to, within a little bit of time, my kids, I apologize. Within a little bit of time, I was trying to homeschool my kindergartner. I was trying to homeschool my preschooler, my 2 preschoolers. I was trying to keep up with a toddler and an infant. I was trying so hard to not only keep up with my 5 kids, the homeschooling, the house, my husband, making sure that the house was clean, the kids were clean, that they had good behavior, that dinner was cooked, that he could relax when he got home, that I didn't pour all of my issues out on him. And I got overwhelmed. And hearing that, if you didn't do all these things, you're not fulfilling your role as a wife. You are not being that godly example of a wife that Titus 2 woman is. You're supposed to be this, and this. And if you're not, well, shame on you. I mean, there's no other way to put it. You're just not doing your job. And so here I am. I'm 26 years old, going on 20. No, I was probably 27. Here I am, 27 years old with 5 kids, and I'm struggling. I'm drowning. I was at a breaking point, and I told Josh, I was like, something's got to change. I can't keep doing this. I am not going to make it. So without telling him, I made the decision to call the local public school and to get information, to hear about the school, the teachers, all this stuff, see what it took to get registered. And I told her, I was like, okay, let me talk to my husband. Well, I told him, and I broke down, and I bawled. And I told him, I said, I can't do this. I know that I'm supposed to be that perfect do-it-all wife. I know I'm supposed to have everything under control. I'm supposed to be Superwoman. When God created the woman, he made her to be the man's helpmeet. She was to hold down the fort. She was to do it all. He goes out and he earns that paycheck and brings home the bacon. But I was to do everything else, And we were compared in that church to, he praised his wife. No shame in that. Praise your wife. She deserves it, every bit of it. But he would praise his wife and kind of measure us up according to her. She teaches school. She's a pastor's wife. She does this, and her house is still clean. Her dishes are still done. Her children still look presentable. They only had 2 kids, and they were a few years apart. And here I was. I'm 27 years old, stay-at-home mom with 5 kids in 4.5 years. I had 5 under 5. And I was not making it. I was depressed. I battled depression a lot in that time frame, probably some postpartum, but I struggled. And I told him, I was like, I can't do this. I can't homeschool, keep the house, do the toddlers. I can't do this. And he agreed, for the sake of my sanity, that it was the best decision for us to put them into a public school. And so we put the older 3 into the public school. They went into pre-K and halfway through kindergarten. And they loved it. They thrived. But shortly, I put them in mid-December of that year. And by January, the beginning of January, I started to experience some really weird things going on. I didn't understand. I was having certain pains. I was having a pain in my shoulder. It was my left shoulder. And I talked to a friend of mine who had an ectopic pregnancy. And I was like, look, I've looked up the symptoms and I've got several of them. And I'm just concerned. I've gotten a faint positive on a test. I've taken 3 tests and they're all very faint positives. And I am terrified that I've got an ectopic pregnancy. So I started spiraling. And after that was all said and done, went to the hospital, ended up having a massive panic attack in the hospital. And I was just mentally, I think I was fried. I was broken. I think I had been to a point where so much pressure was put on me from the pulpit of what I had to be, or I was a failure, that it broke me. expectations were too high. The bar was too high. And I struggled so badly. And this panic attack that came out of nowhere, turns out that the faint positive was from some ovarian cysts that I was having that were pushing hormones. There was no pregnancy, but it terrified me. I spiraled after that. It took me a long time to get okay. And then in April of that same year, I had another massive panic attack. This is where my cycle began. And because January was not where it began. I had my panic attack, but life just went back to normal after that. I had a few days where I was like, I don't feel good. This is just terrible. But then in April, I had panic attack after panic attack after panic attack after panic attack after panic attack. And I went through severe depression. I didn't admit it then, but I went through a severe depression for the first 6 to 7 months after that. It took me until the new year to be okay. I got agoraphobic. I could not get in the car. I could not ride down the road. I could not go to church. I could not go anywhere or do anything. I attempted to go to a Wednesday night service because I was like, hey, I'm feeling a little okay today. Let's try this. I was shaky all the way to church, tore me up. And then when I got to the church, I only made it like 5 minutes. And then I had to go sit in the foyer and I bawled my eyes out the entire service. And by the time I got back into the church after it was over, you know, everyone was watching, everyone could see. Some people knew what I was going through because they had similar issues. But I started talking to my pastor and he was like, you know what? He's like, I don't care. I don't care if you are in the foyer, if you're walking around outside, because we had speakers outside the church that would project the services to the surrounding neighborhood. So he's like, I don't care if you're in the parking lot, if you're in the foyer, if you're in the back Sunday school rooms, just be here. You need to just be here. And I forced myself for a long time. Granted, it did work me out of my slump. I did eventually get to where I could ride without shaking. I could sit in the church without completely freaking out and having a spiral. But I was telling Josh last night, I was like, you know, looking back on it now because of things that he said later on, I don't know if he was trying to help me or if he was trying to fix me. Because from that point on, I tried medication. It didn't work. My body is too sensitive to the synthetic forms of serotonin. And I don't know. I couldn't take them. My body rejected them, and I had to work on this on a natural level. To this day, I still don't take any medication. I use some herbal drops that are very, very well working for me, and they do good. So I stick to those and coping skills and coping mechanisms that help me push forward. I've been through a really bad slump in the last month and a half. But anyway, so then we started hearing things from the pulpit. I was struggling, you know. I was struggling just to get there. And then when I get there, I'm being told, you're suffering with this because you ain't got no faith in God. If you had faith, you wouldn't be dealing with this. You don't trust him. There was also it's a spiritual problem. You're not right with God. It's a spiritual problem. I was told that I wasn't reading enough. I wasn't praying enough. I wasn't doing what I needed to do as a Christian to fix this problem. And so for that first 6 or 7 months, I lived in my Bible. I lived in prayer. I turned over everything. I fixed every wrong. I cleaned my life out. I did everything I knew to do to try and fix me. And then one day, God showed me, I was reading about Paul. God showed me that you're sitting here and you're begging. You've begged me, I don't know how many times, to take this away. And I'm not going to do it because this is for your good. This is for your story. This is for your testimony. This thorn I've given you, I'm going to use it. I'm going to keep you humble, and I'm going to get the glory out of it. And so I decided to start sharing my story a little bit more through, I was already telling people what I was going through, but I decided to really start sharing, why I thought God had allowed me to go through this. And it was because I was willing to share. I was open to telling my story to everyone that needed to hear it. And the more I started telling, the more preaching came from the pulpit. And it finally came to a point that led up to us leaving, that we had started visiting other churches. Our pastor had contacted my husband and wanted to know where we had been. And so he told me, he's like, look, honestly, we've been visiting around. We feel like God's leading us out. And so that's just what we've been going through. And honestly, here's some reasons why. And he said, okay, let's talk about it. So Josh went back. He wanted me to go with him, but I knew that if I went into that meeting, it was going to be a panic attack. I knew there was no way I was going to make through that conversation. So I decided to stay home that day. I kept the kids home. Josh went. And when he came home and told me some things that were said in that meeting, I was like, are you serious? I was told that I was looking for attention, or he was told that I was looking for attention. He was told that I needed to stop sharing because it's not helping anybody. And then I talk about it too much, and that's why it's still so bad. Also, he made the mention of, well, have they found out what's wrong with her? And Josh told me, he's like, look, they've done blood work, they've done brain scans, they've done everything, and there's nothing wrong with her. They can't find a reason for this. He said, well, that leads me to believe if they can't find nothing, then it must be a spiritual issue. And so then he proceeded to tell Josh that I was dealing with a spiritual issue. And then, Josh tried to tell him, she talks about it because it helps. She talks about it because she's helping others. I have a blog that I do. I have a podcast that I do, or did. I haven't done it in a really long time because life has been insane and I don't have any time to do it. And my microphone broke. So, there were things that were said in that meeting that I told Josh, I was like, I don't understand. I cannot go back. I can't sit under that anymore. It broke me. The pressures of being what he said I needed to be with this many small children and struggling with the depression that I was going through, it broke me. And the effects of being broken are to this day. At this point, it was 2 years. After 2 years of hearing all the preaching from the pulpit, telling me how I was wrong and how I wasn't doing right and all this stuff, how if I took medicine, that it was wrong for me because to take medicine for a mental diagnosis was to not trust God. I'm pretty sure if he got diabetes, he'd take insulin. Or if he had a high blood pressure issue, that he's on medication, good Lord, that he's on medication for his high blood pressure. But because I have a mental issue, which is the most important organ in your body, that I can't fix it with medication because that's not trusting God. So after all of that, I told Josh, I said, I cannot go back. I can't do it. And after we left, because he agreed with me that I didn't need to go back there, that it would continue to break me down and I would continue to decline. We broke free from that church and we started going to a church. We had some friends that I grew up with, that they were the associate pastor, and we went, and from day one, I walked in that church and I told Josh, I was like, it's not heavy. I don't dread it. I don't have to sit here and think, what in the world am I going to hear today and how am I wrong today? So to go from that heavy dread and that weight, because I had gotten to a point in that church where no one was talking to me. I had one person that would talk to me, and To this day, she still talks to me, but no one else would. I had heard things that were said behind my back, things that were very hurtful that got back to me. And I just, like I said, I couldn't do it. And then to walk in to the church that we're going to now, that we've been at for 2 years, it's been an amazing experience to go in and have the Bible preached for the Bible. Let the Bible speak for itself. To have it rightly divided and to have it be something you can grow off of. I have had more spiritual growth in the last 2 years than I've had over the last 10. And I'm telling you, it makes a difference. They have been so overwhelmingly supportive of me. My current pastor's wife is an amazing woman. She is a very approachable woman, someone that I can go to with anything. And when I immediately felt like I could go to her. And on our second or third visit, I started to open up and share what I had been through. And she just couldn't believe that we had come from such a hostile environment where we were made to feel where we were made to feel the way we did. And I was able to open up to her, and she was able to help start the healing process. Because I'll be honest, like I said, I'm not naming names, only the people involved are going to know this, but I was scared of my pastor's wife at that church. She was not approachable. She was not someone that I felt like I could openly talk to and be like, I really just need to talk to you today. Not at all. I was scared of her. I was scared of my pastor. If my pastor had called me into a meeting, I'd have freaked out because I was terrified of him. But the church we're at now, our pastor is amazing. I feel like I could approach him with anything as well, and he would be honest. He would stay true to Scripture, and he would rightly divide. But he would also handle it in such a manner that would not be berating. And so to have that shift of environment and to have that shift of personality, it was amazing. We started to heal. We started to be able to be involved. I had tried a few times to be involved at the other church, and they never picked up on anything I wanted to do. I wanted to start a Bible study, and it was never picked up on. I wanted to help do things, and every time I brought something up, it was shot down, or it was something that, it never came to happen. It never came to pass. So here, I wasn't there long as a member, and they were going, okay, we want you to do this. Can you do this? I substitute teaching sometimes in the Sunday school classes. I have substituted in the Master Club before. I love being involved. I'm going to be singing, hopefully, if my anxiety doesn't freak out on me. I'll be singing in a trio. So I'm very happy about it. I'm loving being involved. And it made it to where I didn't feel terrified to question some things. Doctrinally, I am still Baptist doctrine all the way, 1,000%. You are not going to tear me away from the Baptist doctrine because it's truth. But some of these preferences, I have started studying out and looking into it for myself. And something that I've never done before is actually question things. I was scared to question things. We weren't allowed to do that. We just needed to take what they said and run with it. So to be able to take a Bible and question things from the Bible and to look into it with open eyes and an open heart and to move forward has been eye-opening. So very eye-opening. I have grown so much just in those simple ways. I wanted to share my story for anyone who may be dealing with this, going through this. It happens a lot in the IFB. It happens so much Mental illness is looked at as a sin. It is looked at so wrongly, and it's something we can't help. If we could help it, we'd stop it, I promise. We wouldn't continue in this. There's no way I want to keep having panic attacks and anxiety and not drive my kids to the park or be so dizzy that I have to lay in bed all day. Believe me, if I could give that up, it would be gone today, right now, this instant. So it's something we can't help. And the old he-man, she-woman, me-man, you-woman, whatever it's called, thing, we've got to let that go. It's breaking some women out there. Guys, I know you go out, you work hard. We appreciate everything you do for us, I promise. But sometimes we need help. We can't do it all. We are not Superwoman. No matter what you think. We won't ask for help a lot of times, but we need it. So if you think about it, do a load of dishes. Take the kids and play. Let her get a bath. Let her read a book. Let her have some time, because she's gonna need that. I know I needed it, and the environment we were in, you know, I was breaking. Josh was not that way. Josh could care less if I answered the door to him coming home in sweatpants and my hair was all messed up and dinner was corn dogs and tater chips. He didn't care. It didn't bother him. He got aggravated a few times from, you know, stuff being all over the floor, from kids and stuff, of course. He wants to come home to a nice house. I get that. But he didn't look at me as a failure for not having it done. He always made sure to tell me, you know, it's okay. I'd break down and cry sometimes, and he'd look at me and he's like, it's okay. You know, it's all right. But I still felt like that failure. So this is my story. It's not a popular one because I call out abuse for what it is. And what I went through was mental abuse. I feel like it was emotional abuse. And there was even a level of spiritual abuse in that. So I don't claim to be an abuse survivor, because there are so many that go through abuse that do so much worse than I do. But I do believe that abuse is real within the church, and not just the IFB, but it's everywhere. But coming from the IFB, I don't even like to call myself independent fundamental Baptist anymore. I'm just a Christian who loves Jesus, who wants to do right, who stands on the fundamental doctrines of the Bible. But I don't want that name anymore. I don't want that name anymore, because it has a label and it has a testimony with it that I don't want to be associated with anymore, because it's gotten to be a very hostile testimony. It's gotten to be one that is looked at with disdain. And I want to be looked at as someone who's approachable, who can share Jesus, and there's no hate there. There's no wall that goes up that says, I can't talk to her because she comes from them. And I've had that before when I was in it. And I don't want that. So, guys, that was it. So, here we go. If y'all need to talk, comment, message me, figure out a way to contact me. I'm on Facebook. So, anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And if you know someone who needs this, share it. Bye.